Can everyone see that fine? Is that good? Does everyone see it? Okay. Wait, in the back, can you see it? Is that good? Or is it too small? A little bit bigger? It's good. Because I'm not sharing my screen, I'm sharing like in Zoom. So let me just full screen this.
I'm hesitating.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back, guys. This is demo 3. We're gonna be doing a demo on relational databases, and we'll be building our to-do list app once again, but this time with multiple tables. So again, we have our app in db.py right here. Ignore these two. These are just the finished versions. So yeah. So the app today we're gonna build is like a to-do list app, but we're gonna add subtask below the to-do list app. So like one task like do homework could have like do algo homework, do blah 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 homework, etc. And to do that, we're just going to we're actually going to build on the foundations of demo 2. So let me actually don't save.
Wait, do we have access to the start of this?
There is no start, like you can have the PA3 star code, but there is no star code for this one. It's the star code is just your PA, like the demo from last week.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna open that. It was this one. So I'm just gonna copy this over to this one. So app.py is the same as the last one, which was this. And db.py is also the same, which is this one. Do this and paste it here. Yep. So scuff. Right. So let me just go through again what we had last time. So this is our db.py. It's filled with all the logic. So we have the function here to create task table. It will create a table with these 3 fields. It has ID, has description, and it has done. And then we have delete task table to drop the table. We have our logic for our CRUD endpoints. We have, oh my God, it's lagging. We have get all tasks. It just runs the select all from task and then returns a list of all the tasks we have. We have get task by ID. You input an ID and you get the task where the ID is, blah, blah, blah. We have insert task table. This is where you can put in items into your database. Insert into task, and then you put in the values there. Looks like that. Description and done on the right. We have update task by ID. We have delete task by ID, and then that's it for the db.py. So that's the logic from last time. And then in app.py, we have our routes. So we have the get task, just normal get endpoint. We have get task by ID. We have create task. We have update task, and we have delete task. Yep. That's it. And today we're going to be implementing the subtask. So to implement subtask, we have to go back to db.py and we have to make a new table to store all the subtasks that we want to input into our to-do list app. So I'm going to create a new function to create the subtask table. So is it that bad of a lag? Oh, it's terrible. Okay, let me just copy over. Okay, let me just write a function header first. So define a new create subtask table. It takes in self. And then here we're going to create the subtask table. I'm going to put a nice drop string here. Subtask table. And then here we're just going to execute the query to create a new table. So self.connection, remember our connection variable, .execute. And then here we're going to have our query to create a new table. All right. So to create a table, we use the keywords create table. We name the table subtask. And we're only creating this table like last time. The logic was we want to only create it if it doesn't exist. So we're going to add if not exists here. So create table if not exists subtask. And then here we have the fields. So the first field we want is an ID, as usual. We have ID, it's going to be an integer, primary key, and we're going to auto increment it. That. We have a description for the subtask as well, which is like the text inside the row. So it's description, text, not null. This, and then we have the done variable again. So we'll allow the user to be able to like check off their subtask. So we have a done, which is a Boolean, not null. We have and then here, this is the part where we'll actually use the relationships we learned. So we have a task table and we have a subtask table. Can anyone tell me what's the relationship between subtask and task? Yeah. One too many. Can you explain why?
There's one task and one subtask, and each subtask belongs to one system.
Perfect. You want an egg? Sorry. Okay. All right. So it's one too many. And to implement a one too many relationship, we need to actually put the task ID inside this table, right? So we're gonna have a variable task ID, a field task ID, and then it's gonna be integer because it's storing an ID, and it's also not gonna be null because it has to belong to a certain task. And then here we're gonna make the connection. So we have the field ready. We're gonna make the connection by using a foreign key. So we're gonna add a foreign, I spelled that right, foreign key. And the foreign key is this variable right here. This field, foreign key from task ID, and it references the task, like in our table task above over here. We have this field ID, so it's going to reference that ID. So it references task ID. Let me just make sure this is with an S. Oh, it's not with an S, so it's task right here. So it's not with an S. All right, so that's a table for subtask. And now we have to create the table whenever we're running our backend, right? So we have to go to our our init function right here. And then over here, besides just creating a task table, we're going to do self.create subtask table like that. So whenever we initialize or like start our backend, we will actually run this function. If it doesn't exist, it'll make it. If it does exist, we will skip it. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to start doing the CRUD logic. So we're going to create insert subtask function first. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and here we're going to make a new function called insert subtask. And here we're going to take all the parameters, like whatever's in the body. So we need we need description, we need done, and we need the task ID that the subtask is associated with. And here is this quick docstring once again. Using SQL adds a new subtask into the subtask table. That. Right. And here we're going to use the same variable as last time. We're going to use cursor is self.connection.execute. So we're going to run this query, which inserts into the subtask table. So this will be insert into the table subtask. And then here we want the fields that we're inserting into. So we have the fields description, we have the field done, and we have the field task ID. And then we need the values. So the values will be these 3 question marks for now. And then we have the semicolon. And then after this string, this query, we're going to input whatever we have from whatever the user gives us into this query. So we're going to have description, we have done, and task ID. Yep. And remember, whenever you're actually like updating or creating a new thing in the database, you have to commit to the database. So we will be doing self.con.commit, and that will commit the changes. And lastly, we want to return the ID of whatever we just added. So that's cursor dot last row ID, which is what we used last time as well. So this is simple inserting into subtask. The only difference here is we're adding that task ID, which allows you to like store what the parent task is. Right. So that's this. And then now let's make a function to get subtask by ID. So we're gonna make a function called get subtask by ID. It's gonna take self and it's gonna take an ID. Here, let me make another doctrine. So using SQL gets a subtask by its ID. And then we have the cursor variable once again, cursor equals self dot connection dot execute. And I fortunately have to put inline like strings here because the screen is tiny, but okay. So we're going to select a subtask given an ID. So we want to select uh all fields from the table subtask. And then we have to filter by ID. So we do where ID equals something and semicolon. And then we insert the ID over here. ID, comma. Let me just check if I did this properly. Yeah, like that. And just move this up. That. There you go. And then once we do this, we can iterate through the cursor object, right? So for row in cursor, we want to return a like a dictionary object. We have the ID, and actually I can copy this from above. But let me just write it out. ID is ID. We have the description, which is this row 1, and then we just keep going. Row 2 and row 3. So done is row 2. Forgot a comma. And task ID is row 3. Yep. So that's the insert. I mean, that's the get subtask by ID. Any questions so far? This is like the same content as last time, but the only difference is literally just the task ID there that we have. So, okay. And now that we have these functions, we've created a table, we have insert, like inserting a subtask, and we also have get subtask by ID. So let's go and implement our routes. So we go to app.py and let's go to the bottom. Right, let's make a new route. So let's first do the insert. So we're going to create a subtask. This is our decorator. I'm just going to copy this. I'm too lazy. Like that. So it's going to be slash task slash the task ID that we want to add the subtask to, and then slash subtask. This, and the method is post, obviously, because it's a create. And then below here, a new function, create subtask. And it takes in a task ID. And this is just an endpoint for creating a subtask from task ID. Wait, given task ID. Okay. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna get from the body. So body equals JSON.loads, and then we're just gonna get request.data. So we have everything in the body. We're gonna extract the description first. So description equals just body.get description. That. And now how do we like add this subtask? We have to first check if the parent task actually exists. We have to check if the task ID is valid. So let's try and get that. We're gonna use a variable task to hold it. So this is gonna be db.get task by ID, which is what we implemented last time. We're gonna give it the task ID. So we're getting the task, like the parent task. And then again, this is the same syntax. If task is none, then we're gonna return an error. So return, ooh, this is interesting. I'm gonna introduce a new function here, just to make everything cleaner. I'm just gonna name it failure response. This. And let's actually implement this a bit later. So essentially what this does is we will be returning this JSON.dumps 404. Instead of that, we're gonna be using a function to abstract that away, because you can see in our code base, we're using JSON.dumps, blah, 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 JSON.dumps, blah, 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 like a million times here. like everywhere. So it's good practice to actually abstract this out. But I'll leave that to the for the to the later part of lecture actually. Let's just use the same thing. Oops. We're gonna return JSON.dumps error and pass.found for now, just to keep it clean. Yep. And then once we know that the task actually exists, we're going to insert the subtask. So subtask ID is db.insert subtask. Here we're going to give it a description. We're going to set the done to false by default, and we give it the task ID as well. And like this function that we just implemented in db.py, it will give us the subtask ID back. So we store it in that variable. And then we have the subtask just to check if we added it properly. We're gonna get it again, db.get subtask by ID, and this is subtask ID. So we insert it here. We store the index of it. I mean the ID over here, and then here we're just getting it again from the database to check if it's there. And again, we're gonna have the same syntax here to check if subtask is there or not. And the error message is here, like if we fail to create the subtask, we can't find it, then we could not create the subtask. That. And finally, if everything goes well, we can just return based on dumps. We're going to return the task, the subtask that we just inserted. So it will just be right here. We're going to return the subtask like that. All right. So that's create subtask. And then now we have to be able to get it as well. So we have get subtask by task ID. And what this function will do is we will actually this should be in db.py. So we want to be able to get all the subtasks for a certain task. And we do this just by having a bunch of like we don't want to have to search all the subtasks for every single one in the app.py. So we're gonna make a function db.py. We're gonna get a subtask uh, by task ID. So this would have an S. So we're getting all the subtasks. And this will be using SQL gets all subtasks for a given task ID. Okay. And then we have sort of like the same syntax once again. I'm just going to copy this. So we use the cursor variable once again. We're going to execute a query where we select all from subtask where the task ID of the subtask is equal to the one we're given. So here I'm just going to use task ID instead, like that. Select all from subtask where task ID equals what we're given. And then I'm going to make a new array to store all of these. And again, we're going to iterate through cursor objects. So for row in cursor, subtasks dot append. And this will be the same as what we have above right here. So we have the ID, which is row 0. We have description, row 1, done, row 2, and task ID, row 3. And for every row, we're adding it to our subtask variable. And then in the end, we can just return subtasks. Is there any questions up to this point? I think this is very repetitive, and I think, yeah, this lecture is generally the most repetitive. But yeah, let's keep going. So we have the logic. Next, we're going to go to app.py again, and we're going to make a route for it. So I'm going to copy the route here. So /task/ the task ID subtask, and in this case, it's a get method. So let's remove this. Let's rename it get subtasks of a task, and we're putting it in task ID. So this will it's an endpoint for getting all subtasks for task with ID equals task ID. Yep. So again, we have to check if the task exists. So we go up here and we can just copy this. Task is get task by ID. If it's not, then we return 404. And once we find it, all we have to do is we just return the dumps, and we want to return subtask here. So we're going to make a new variable subtasks equals db dot get subtask by task ID. That, and we're going to put in task ID. All right. So that's getting all the subtasks of a single task. That's done. All right. So now let's actually test this in Postman. I think we have enough to be able to test this. I will go and open Postman. And let's run it. Where's my terminal here? I'm going to run it with Python Py. Right? This link. All right, so let's see if we have any tasks actually. I don't think we do because I made a new folder. Yeah, we have 0 tasks. Let's create a task first. This is the right route. We're going to send this, create a task. This is incredibly tiny. Yeah, that's how it looks. So let's do the task again to confirm we have the task. Right, so we have 1 task. Now let's make a new test for the subtask endpoint. So I'm just going to duplicate this. We're going to name this get subtasks. Let's actually create it first. Create a subtask. It's going to be post, and here it's going to be task slash what was the route? Slash subtask. Okay, so it's gonna be task, and you have to say which task you want to add a subtask to. So it's like task number 1 slash subtask. It's with an S, yeah, subtask. And then we have the body. Where's the body? Body. We have the raw form. Okay, we have the description, which is something like study for stats, like study up on something like that. We have done, which is just false by default, and we have the task ID. I mean, the task ID is on top, so we actually don't need. We just need the description because the task ID is put is communicated through the actual like URL right here. So description, and let's try and send this. And this is the result. It looks like we have added this. Now let's create a new test for creating. I mean, for getting all these subtasks. So I'm going to duplicate this once again. Get subtasks. This, and let's try and run this. Right. So we have all the subtasks there. And this will get a bit cooler later on when we actually add these subtasks to the get task. So if I go to get task right now, we send this call, and we see that we don't actually see the subtask for task number 1. But later on, I'll update our code to actually show all the subtasks there. Okay, so that works. All right, let's continue. All right, so now we're going to our get all task in db.py. So this is exactly what I was talking about, get all task right here. So currently it just selects all from task and then just appends this. But what we want is we want the subtask also returned for this particular task. So for row and cursor, we're going to append all the tasks that we have right now. But let me make this a nicer format like this. Like that. And over here, we just want subtasks for that particular task. So here all we have to do is, because we already implemented a function to do this, we just do self.get subtask by task ID. And then because like all the subtask will be returned by this, we just have to give this a task ID. And the task ID is just row 0 right here. Right? So let me save this and let's try and see if it works. So server should still be running. Okay. Now when I send this, so you can see if I get rid of everything, just make it JSON. Hmm. So you can see we have a task, a list of tasks, and inside the task object, we have the subtask portion, the subtask field, where you can see it has all the subtasks inside of it. So this one-to-many relationship, you can begin to see it like in play here. You can see everything, like all the children of the task object. Yep. Any questions up to this point? All clear. All right. Next. Um, I think that's it. Let me show you guys a better way to abstract out the repetitive JSONs. So that's mostly it for the logic. We have like subtasks now, and we also have a way to show the subtask for each task like this. So now let's optimize some, like clean up some of this. So I'm going to, where is it? Mm, success response and failure response. Let's make new functions here. These are just some helper functions. So it's just going to be called like failure, define a failure response. That will take in the string that you want to like display. So I'm just going to call it description. And here, by default, this is going to return whatever we have when we get an error. So we get something like this. So when we have a failure response, we just return, we will just return JSON.dumps error. And then instead of this, we're going to use description. So we're just going to give we're just making a function for this basically. For this, we're going to keep it as 5. Let's actually put another variable here. Let's name it like status code. And by default, let's just set it to 500. But here, if the user wants to change it, they can change it. And then we also have a success response. We can actually do that as well. My free meeting will end in 10 minutes. Success response, description, status code. And then here, we're just going to return, instead of description, we're just going to have the content. And then here, we're just going to JSON.dumps the content itself. And the status code, the default is 200 or whatever the user wants. Yeah, so these are just two functions that we can use to clean up how we send back a response to the user. Now let's try and use this. So success response taking content and status code. Let's add that to our get tasks. So here, instead of this, I'm going to comment these out. And we're going to return success response. We're going to give it the content, which was this. And we're going to just, by default, the status code is 200. So let's do this. And let's see if we have the same thing. So if I run this, it should have reloaded already. Yep. Send this. And yeah, we still get the same thing, still get 200. And yeah, you guys can use this function. It's just cleaner, cleaner code, more abstracted.